I'll call our meeting to order. Would you all stand, please, as we honor America with the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, first of all, pleased to see so many people here. This is quite unusual for us, and we welcome you here this evening. First part of our meeting is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on an item not before the board on the agenda, this would be an appropriate time. So, or are you here to discuss something, John? Or is this
Correspondence. I had included your letter to the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, okay. If you wait till then, we'll. You do. Go for it. And you may want to turn the mic around. Or just grab it. Yes.
Regarding the
Would you just give your name?
Is it working, Bart? Okay. My name's John Toomey Jr., and I'm here representing the Bolton Alumni Association for this part. Regarding the monument that we're raising money for to honor the Bolton veterans on Bolton's Town Green, the monument company has told me that the sooner we at least dig a foundation for the monument on the Town Green, the cheaper it will be for us to do so. Maybe I can meet with your facilities subcommittee at a later date.
Absolutely.
To discuss having that done before the ground freezes.
Yeah. Not a problem.
Okay, and regarding the Bolton Veterans Monument, we have tickets available. I have some in my pocket now. And for all the people at home that received their Bolton Community newspaper a couple of weeks ago, the flyer that announced the benefit dance on November the 12th, Saturday, $35 at Villa Louisa. It's a benefit buffet dance. And please call Bill Lawrenson at 643-4313. And you can get tickets from him or give me a call at 721-8818. We'll be happy to get your tickets for the dance.
And we give you a free commercial.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, John. It's a good cause. Absolutely worth supporting. Anyone else wish? Yes. Sure.
And one of the issues that Mike is going to speak about, we had just received a letter from the Open Space Committee
Right.
that was on the table this evening.
Okay, yes, Michael Harrison, and at this point I'm representing Open Space Acquisition and Preservation Committee, and I'll just summarize that letter in case you haven't read it yet. Open Space supports the purchase of the Pestrito property, and we urge the selectmen to consider an open space component as you purchase that and divvy it up with the church in the town. Would like to consider setting part of it aside as open space. If that's the case, if you're agreeable to investigating that approach, Gwen Marion has volunteered to write a grant. I believe it's similar to the grant that was written for, or the grant request that was written for Rose Farm. And she has spoken to the state agency, and there is funding available at this time. So if open space could be a component of that, she in fact could start the grant process, or grant writing process now. She couldn't complete that, of course, until she knew what piece of the property might be appropriate for open space, and also it would require an appraisal that would spike out that piece and estimate its value. But she is willing to, get started on that if that's something you'll approve.
Well, that property is under discussion under our executive session under the real estate negotiations.
Okay, so
I appreciate that. I think we had
out in that session.
Yeah, we had in my meetings that's the sense we had, that you folks were interested in keeping part of that as part of the open space thing. I think it's, now, let's see how far this progresses. As those of you out there may or may not know, property back at the town hall, just so they know what we're talking about. Identify it. The property in back of the town hall, the vacant property that extends from Bolton Center Road and sort of horseshoes around, comes out on Toomey Lane, encompassing.
Behind the library.
Oh.
But I have a map. So
Oh, okay.
We do.
Well, that's hard to show on a TV, but in essence, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. What in essence does, it wraps around this area, it cuts them back and comes out to an area behind the library. Most of it is, it's open land that actually the cattle were grazing on. Part of it is woodland. That's in essence the parcel that we will be discussing tonight.
Okay, and related to that, you know, one of the paragraphs in Gwen's letter mentions long-term bonding through open space funding referendum. And that kind of brings up an issue that we've set aside for a while. BOS, the Bolton Open Space Supporters, was trying to get a referendum started for some long-term borrowing. And we basically set that aside waiting for the sewers project because it was just too much to work on. So we would just like to, you know, bring that issue back up as soon as it's appropriate too. And I guess we're suggesting perhaps there's a tie-in to this property, or could have been. I'm not sure if it's too late to do any kind of bonding for the Prestrito property, but had that been in place, that might have been able to be used for the open space component. There were one. So anyways, we'll be, you know, BOS will be working on bringing that issue back up before you soon.
Okay, great.
Okay, now I got to put on my other hat
All right.
as the lake commissioner, and I understand we've already sent a letter to DEP requesting a drawdown. I was able to talk to various residents that are concerned with groundwater and its effect on septic and leach fields, and also those that are concerned about weeds, and also those such as myself are concerned about the overall ecology and health of the lake. And I also spoken to DEP about it as well. What I'd like to propose is a 2-foot drawdown rather than the typical. I think we typically ask for 3 feet. I'd like to request that we ask for a 2-foot drawdown, because I feel that will probably be sufficient to mitigate the groundwater problems that some folks have on the east side of the lake, while still not, perhaps not encouraging the weed growth on that same side of the lake that we saw recently. And also it'll lessen the impact on the west side of the lake, where it's very shallow. And when they draw down 3 feet, we end up with some mud flats over there on the west side. Plus, I think it would be better overall for the ecology of the lake. We used to draw down every other year, so certain microorganisms that are mentioned in studies that DEP forwarded to me, and I gave some copies to the facility subcommittee, have a chance to recover. But now that we're doing it every year, I think that a 2-foot drawdown will be less of an impact for them. And, you know, I'm also going to ask through Sandy Turkington for the folks on the other side to let me know if there are any issues with, you know, the groundwater, you know, being too high at 2 feet and having, you know, problems. So that, and I'm also going to ask for the log from DEP that they keep of how far, you know, how successful they are at the actual
In drawing it down to the 3 feet
when they
level.
draw it down, so that
Yeah.
in the spring
See where they
we'll
really
have
are.
the log to compare to any problems that may have come up, and we'll see if in fact 2 feet is enough to satisfy them. We'll check the weeds. We did get a weed survey by the Connecticut Experimental Station. The results won't be available until December, but we'll have them in the spring for further analysis. that sort.
And that's one of the things we were looking for, that to develop a long-term plan.
Correct.
This is a good, I think, sounds like a good compromise for a short term.
Mhm. Yeah, so far the
We'll talk about
the
it.
folks that have been most vocal over there are happy with that as a compromise, at least for now.
Does anyone have any questions for?
They need does he need an endorsement from us to do the 2-foot drop down?
If you can agree by consensus, because the letter was sent based on the selectmen's last meeting to request the same drawdown as prior years.
We can, by consensus, we can simply follow up letter and say, look, we'd like to limit it to 2 feet due to, and we'll write down the concerns we have, vegetation concern, and in essence, that 2 feet will meet our goals is to help draw down some of the ground.
Okay, great, and I would just ask to be copied on that letter, and actually the previous one I didn't get a copy of either.
What was the date you said you'd have the leaf survey results? When?
Sometime in December. They won't tell us exactly, but it'll be on their website when it is available, so I'll let Joyce know when it is available, and then anybody could go to the website and look at the results.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board on an item not before you tonight?
I just say one thing on
Sure.
this, on the subject of the Streeto property. I'd like to, although Gwen's not here, I would like to thank Gwen for sending this letter, because I personally was very interested in what the Open Space Acquisition Committee's thoughts were on the property, and I'm quite pleased that without any prompting, we've got an excellent response here from Gwen, and I want to thank her for that.
Good evening.
Karen?
Karen Burgeon, 12 Hebron Road. Just to piggyback on that comment, there's a lot of interest and discussion in the community about the Pastrito property and the opportunity that it provides and offers to the town. So I'm interested in knowing if the Board of Selectmen has a plan for a public discussion on what the possibilities are before you decide to make a plan, but to include the community in talking about what the opportunities are with that property.
Good question. I think just to bring everyone up to date, obviously the property's only been available for a short period of time. I was contacted by a representative from the church next door, and we met last week just to preliminarily discuss what our interests might be on the property, what their interest might be, what the town's interest might be. And obviously, there appears to be interest, certainly on the church's side. They're certainly tied into a very narrow strip of land. They have nowhere to go for expansion, even for additional parking. They really have nowhere to go, even for if they had to significantly modify their septic system. What you see is what you have. This building faces very similar situation. The parking is extended as far as it can go. Its septic system is right on the border of the property. There is no way to extend the current septic system. So, there are certainly immediate benefits to having part of, if not all, that property. How the property would be utilized in total, Karen, we haven't even gotten that far yet, but I think your suggestion is very timely, because should the board agree that this is a property worth pursuing, worth purchasing, it requires a vote of the town to do it. And as you've been around a while, and I don't mean that in a negative fashion, but you've been through these things, and for it to go forward, I think the town would have to be convinced that it's a good thing, and for the town, that it's a positive thing. And with that, I think the townsfolk would have to know what are the possible uses for the property. How's the town using it? You buying it just to buy it, or is there a purpose behind it, and what that purpose would be? And I think we'd have to have that open dialogue before we could bring it to the town for a vote.
And actually, the land trust was also present at
Right.
that meeting, and also has interest in the preservation of the land.
Can I comment? I note that our meeting on the issue is in executive session, and maybe some people would be concerned by that. And the problem with a land purchase is that until we have a deal, the negotiations are obviously sensitive, and if we were to talk openly about where we value the property, our projected uses for the property, at this early stage, it could impact on our negotiations. And that's why I think for real property purchases, the discussion needs to be held in executive session. And then once our plans are formulated, obviously, they will be transparent and open. But it's almost like a labor negotiation. When you're negotiating a contract, you want to first have all your ducks in a row before you come out with your offer. And with a real estate negotiation that the asking price is upwards near $1 million, we need to have our ducks in a row, and I think we need to get our strategy set in executive session, and then to the extent we can, whatever we agree to, discuss whatever we can that will not impact negatively upon the negotiations with the seller.
Yeah. Karen? Right.
And if you develop a strategy that limits you and you miss an opportunity,
Right. Well, initially, I'm just going to pick up where Josh left off. Before you even do that, you have to, in essence, tie the property up. So there has to be an agreement on price and a signed contract. Once you have that, then that's when that discussion comes in, where you can then decide, okay, what are you going to do with it? And make your decision. But until that time, it's a moot question, and quite frankly, you end up negotiating against yourself. I mean, part of our charge is, yeah, if we feel it's important to go forward with that property, then it's our job to try and do it and get the best deal, dollar-wise, as possible. How that land then becomes used it really becomes an open discussion. And the final part of that discussion is the community has to vote on it. If they think we have a dumb plan in the overall plan, it gets voted down. But I think, particularly, I know I have, and Bob and Don, we've been in a position where we thought we had a plan and we really didn't have it open up, and we got it hammered. We got it kicked back on us. I think that was a lesson that we've learned exceedingly well. And I think from what we did afterwards, we just opened it up before we came up with a good plan. Obviously, we're talking about the parochial property as to how to go forward. I don't ever want to go back to that situation again. I think what we ended up doing the last time was very effective, and I think, I can't speak for the rest of the board, but I kind of get a sense that that's where we're going to want to go this time.
Unfortunately, this situation is unlike our previous two land purchases where we bought Rose Farm and we bought the parochial property. We were the only person interested in buying the property. It wasn't on the open market per se. Unfortunately, in this situation, the property is out there for sale. We are not the sole negotiators for this property. The other situations, the owners approached us, gave us an opportunity to buy the property, so there wasn't any pressure to come up with a finite offer, because we were already in the position of being the purchaser. If we had refused the property, it would have gone to somebody else. But unfortunately, in this situation, we're just one of anybody who could buy that property. So it's a more awkward situation than what we had before.
Unless the Pistritos were willing to, for a period of time, take it off the market and negotiate with us exclusively. And then that...
capital would be easier if I
This is a good time to bring in the representative.
Why don't you take the microphone, though, so you're...
Just introduce.
I'm Carol Cavallari. I'm with Ann Miller Real Estate. I'm the listing agent at the Pastrito property. I'm also a resident of Bolton. I live at 74 South Road. Unfortunately, Mrs. Pastrito does not hold a huge alliance to the town of Bolton, where she would have presented this to the town prior to putting it on the market. She was an older woman, and this is basically her retirement. I'll leave these up in front here. There was a subdivision drawn up back in 1990. They had dug test holes in 1987. I've indicated on the maps where the test holes were dug, and except for that one I'm looking at right now. But anyway, where the test pits were done, and they came up with a 7-lot subdivision. The property is being marketed, or I'm marketing the property 3 different ways. One with 18 plus or minus acres that would constitute possibly 7 lots based on 1990 criteria for wetlands, because there is a big chunk of wetlands that sits directly, designated wetlands that sits right in the center of the property. I'm marketing the property, the house itself, $399, 9 house and 3 plus or minus acres, and the entire parcel for $979.9. The entire parcel is 21.36 acres with the house included. The reason why it's important to the church is because I know that this is very small. This is the church, and this is Bolton Center Road, and this is Rose's Farm. So you have that big stretch of land. It's 255 feet frontage past the church going towards Rose's Farm. And then all of this, all of this is on Toomey. You've got the house here, and then the open space, and then the next property just before Maple Valley subdivision. If you want more copies, feel free. I'm not trying to sell the property. I just want to give you the whole thing. And then there's Rose's Farm, how it pertains to the Pastrito land, which basically it runs all the way the length of the back. There are wetlands on the property. There were 4 test holes dug back in 1987. Like I said, the results are attached to this packet. From talking with Town Hall, I'm sorry, I'm turning my back on you too. I'm sorry. The test pits are marginal on 2 holes they dug, and 2 were probably okay. They were dug in the same general area right behind Town Hall and the Congregational Church. There's been interest in the land from a developer, and there's been interest in the house, and there's been interest in the entire parcel. Will you be bidding against somebody? I don't know. I don't have anything. I did get an offer on the land. We made it, we made them remove all contingencies, which is not really conducive to a builder's side of things. They want the test pits done, and they want town approval on the lots. They did remove the approval on the lots, but from Town Hall, but they still want to get in there and dig some holes. Back in 1990, an engineering firm came up with 7 lots. Whether or not it would be 7 lots now is anybody's guess, and it wasn't up to me to decide, and that's where the value came from as far as where I priced the land. And I guess that's it. So if anybody has any questions, does anybody have any questions?
Clarification, it's just so people understand, it's not an approved subdivision.
No.
It was never
Subdivision
presented.
study. All it is somebody took the map and said, we can fit these many lots in here with the conditions we anticipate. We think the wetlands are this big, and if soil is like this, we could put this many lots. It would be up to planning and zoning to approve that, and it could be approved anywhere from 7 lots to 2 lots or 1 lot.
And inland wetlands.
Right? And inland wetlands has to approve.
Speaking of negotiations.
So-
Yeah. So, basically, I'm here just to answer any questions. Real estate has a whole other rules that I have to follow, so I'm basically a third party here trying to help you and help Mrs. Pastrito as well. That's basically it. I mean, there's nothing on the table as we speak right now. But there is, obviously a lot of interest as far as the property itself. It has some significant historic value, and obviously with the land it's got, the town and open space and the church as well.
Thank you. And let me just state, as I'm sure the seller came up with their price based on that piece of paper, the potential buyers will come up with their price based on the data that they gather, that if the town submits an offer, it'll be based upon our soil scientists checking the property and some other things so that we have a proper determination of its value. Part of our charge is to look at properties if it's important to the town, try and acquire it if we can, but it's also our charge not to overpay for anything. And I just want to make that clear to all parties. Josh?
What was the offer on the land? Okay.
Oh, good move.
I tried. I thought maybe I'd get lucky.
It was a very strong offer, but it was based on.
Had to be subject to.
It was based on getting a better lot out of it. They
Yeah.
used that contingency from the town side as part of waiting for the town. They, obviously, Mr. Patricio is not, able to wait for the bills and stuff to
Yeah, that's 7 points.
but, he really wanted to come back and do some big whole things and not, maybe that.
And obviously, Mrs. Pastrito knows that we're discussing the property and
Aware of what and who's interested. There's a private party who's interested in the whole piece, and another private party who's an out of state person that is considering just buying the house for 3 acres.
and she knows that we're interested, at least, we haven't voted on anything, but we're interested.
As open as I can, because I don't like to, do the thing that people do all the time, but everyone knows about everybody as far as interest goes, only so that no one feels that they got left out, as opposed to telling everybody that everyone's interested to get them hopping on the horse, because obviously that's not happening. It's not a small decision on anybody's part. But everybody knows what, way out as far as that goes. I'm not giving away any marbles.
Right. And if you find a philanthropist that wants to come along and buy the house at 3 acres and donate the rest of the property to us, latch onto it, give us a call. We'll be happy to sit down and negotiate.
That would be easy.
Yeah. I just thought I'd let you know that. Okay. Anyone else wish to address the board? John?
I had the pleasure of touring that house just at the beginning of the big rainstorm that we had for 8 days. Considering purchasing the piece of property myself, it's, to me, I've known it my entire life. The old stagecoach house here on the old Boston Post Road, as it went down Toomey Road down to Route 6. That's a major historic home here in town. As president of the Bolton Historical Society, I'd like to tell you that if and when, and should you come to a deal on the property, we too would like to be included in that discussion. You call it wetlands. As my mom by Toomey here said the other day, I took you kids up there skating on the ice in the cranberry bog. It's not wetlands, it's waterland. It's a beautiful park. I mean, who would think that there would be a cranberry bog in the center of Bolton? It's right there. It's just amazing. And I hope if you do have your inspectors come and dig a test, I hope you do it really, really soon, because nothing's ever going to drain after this much rain.
And John's not part of our negotiating team. But thank you, John.
The house is quite something inside. There was an interesting little cave going down into the cellar through that staircase. And I was in the carrot shed, and I got as wet inside as I did outside.
John, on one of the maps maps, it makes a reference to the estate of the Sumners. Did the Sumners live there?
The Sumners owned a lot of this property. I don't know if Cousin Paul
Right.
can remember much more, but they owned the doctor's house was the one with the long front window,
All this piece back.
and this the Sumners owned the farm that the Rose family owned. They were quite an extensive family in Connecticut. One of them was the mayor of Hartford at one point. The Sumners had vast holdings in the state of Connecticut and in the town of Bolton. And if you look at the map from 1869, you can see Sumner houses dotting the center part of town and all the way up to John Treat's and the Fish family farm. They were quite extensive, and all they got out of that was just a little teeny-weeny, itty-bitty Sumner Road.
Thank you, John.
Thanks. Anyone else? If not, we'll go on with the item 3A, which is approval of our September 6th meeting. Will someone move the minutes, please?
I'll move.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Are there any additions or corrections to the September 6th minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Also before us is approval of the minutes of our meeting on September 19th of 2005.
Motion to approve.
Motion is made and seconded. Anyone have any corrections or additions to those set of minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Guys, you can talk a little louder on that end. We can't hear your,
Aye.
we can't hear your eyes, that's all.
Aye.
Am I going deaf or is it?
No.
No, I
Okay.
actually.
No, okay, okay.
You're right.
It may be that too, I just,
It was an aye by,
oh, okay. Under 4, correspondence. Obviously, one of the items was read to us. That was a letter from Gwen Marion that we shared with us. And Joyce, do you have any other?
Yes, we have Toomey, the letter from John Toomey.
Oh, right. Yes.
That was the supplemental information when our meeting was postponed.
Ah,
I
yes.
gave you additional
Right.
information.
Okay. This, you sent this, Jim? Okay. Okay, oh, I don't, that's the one I didn't have. I'm sorry. You want me to read it into the record, or you might as well? This one's brief enough. This is to Joyce, and it's dated September 27th. Dear Joyce, as I discussed with you earlier in the year, I have a portrait of Olive Toomey, town clerk of Bolton, from 1962 to 72. I would like to present as a gift to the town of Bolton. Should I would like the painting of my great aunt to hang in the town clerk's office.
Permanently.
Permanently. Thank you. Nothing against your writing, John. I just having a hard time seeing. The town of Bolton was near and dear to my aunt's heart. She devoted her working life to Bolton, having also served as assistant town clerk of Bolton from 1933 to 1962. And who was the town clerk then? Right. Now, I thought, I wonder why you didn't put that in there. Please place this item on at the beginning of our agenda of Board of Selectmen meeting for, well, we would have met October 4th, but we had two religious holidays and we moved it on to today. So here's as part of it is John submitted a profile, and do you have the painting is
members of the family here this evening.
Okay, would you like to,
Good evening, everyone. My name's John Toomey, and so is the man with the red hair. That's my dad and my mom. My cousin Paul is here. Paul Toomey, his wife Shirley Toomey are here. Cousin Dr. Laura Toomey couldn't be here this evening, nor could Edith Toomey Clark. And cousin David is away on traveling until Thursday. Her 4 children, all 4 of them couldn't be here except Paul. I've had Vi Sobel, a local town artist, paint a portrait of my great aunt Olive Toomey. She was born in 1899 in the little in the big long Georgian style house across from the Congregational Church, and she didn't really move very far in life. Physically, she got as far as Toomey Road when she married my great uncle David Toomey. She went to the one-room schoolhouse that was behind the Bolton Congregational Church until 9th grade, and she worked in town as assistant town clerk from 1933 until great uncle David passed away in 1962. She was also a member of the War Ration Board during World War II, and both that and the town clerk's office were in their home down on Toomey Road until the town decided it would be a good idea to put all the town records in a safe in a brick building that's attached to this building in 1959, and the town clerk's office moved up here. They had to commute at that point in time. My great aunt was a historian. She wrote many things concerning the history of Bolton and the history of the Bolton Congregational Church. Her writings were incorporated into the story of the Bolton Congregational Church, and those excerpts were also included in the edited book by Bruce Ronson for the 250th anniversary of Bolton called Bolton's Heritage. And much of what she wrote is in that book, and it's available in the Bolton the Bentley Memorial Library. She was in the town clerk business for 40 years, and she received many accolades from her colleagues, from Secretary of State Ella Grasso, and she was even written a letter of commendation from President Richard Nixon. She, upon her retirement, was appointed Director of Archives by First Selectman Richie Mora. So our families do go back quite a long way.
we do cross swords a long way back. Yes, sir.
They were in the Bolton Grange for 50 years. They used to meet here. She was a member of the Bolton Historians. As an aside, the Bolton Historians attempted to purchase Mrs. Griswold's house. We now know it as the Pistrito House, the old stagecoach house, back in 1970, but there was an overzealous member of the community, may she rest in peace, who kind of was a little bit too fervent in trying to get the former owner to donate it to the town and to the Historical Society, and the deal fell through, unfortunately. And we should now find ourselves in the same position 35 years later, and I hope we tread lightly. I hope that we can accomplish now what we tried to do 35 years ago. In 1999, a scholarship was established to honor Olive Toomey and David Toomey, and the scholarship has been given out for the last 6 years. The purpose of the scholarship is given to a student that shows commitment to public service and dedication to the town of Bolton. And those are the qualities that we in the Toomey family have chosen to recognize in the recipient of that annual scholarship. The Bolton Historical Society created a memorial fund in memory of Olive Toomey to establish a 300th anniversary of Bolton fund. There's money sitting in an account so that we can have a proper parade, a proper dance, a proper party. The money's there for it. It's beginning to grow. And it's in memory of her. She was the Grand Marshal of the 250th anniversary parade. And that pretty much concludes the story of my Aunt Olive. She was a great inspiration for me. When I was 10 years old, she asked me what I was reading in school, and I told her biographies, and she said, "Who did you like best?" And I said, "Abraham Lincoln," and she asked me why. And I simply told her he freed the slaves. Within a couple weeks, and the timing is everything in life, it was the 100th anniversary of the end of the Civil War. And all the magazines and newspapers had tons of stories and photographs of the Civil War and the effect and pictures. And she made me a scrapbook, and that's what started me on the road of loving history. And I hope in a small way that as president of the Bolton Historical Society, I can continue her work.
Good. I don't know if your cord can reach your, it won't be.
Bert, how far can I go here? Most people never get, okay.
You're pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
You may have to hand it to someone
All right.
when you do the unveiling.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't reach Toomey Road. Most people don't ever get to see the cameraman, our former president of the Bolton Historical Society, Bert Flynn. Thank you, Bert. At this time, I'd like to have the artist come up and unveil her painting, Vi Sobel.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
I don't really know. I think that's closer in her 60s, probably. She was 77 when she passed away, and she retired at 73. I would say in her late 50s or 60s. And people that have seen the photograph say that looks just like her smiling. And
Yeah, that's an excellent.
we have one other family member. We have cousin Paul and my parents, and we have Eleanor Hutchinson Price, her niece, is here this evening as well. And we would like it hung in the town clerk's office. And
We're going to take that up right now.
once I find a good picture of Uncle David, I'm having Vi paint one of Uncle David, and then we'll get one for Catherine Liner.
Well, first of all, we'd like to thank you for this lovely gift. And I don't know if someone would like to make a motion that we officially present it and have it hung in the town clerk's office.
I'll make a motion to that effect that we honor Olive Hutchinson Toomey, former town clerk, and served the town in many different ways by hanging the portrait of her in Town Hall. I don't know if is the town clerk's office the most appropriate place, you think? Okay, in the town clerk's office.
I'll second Josh's motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Well, as long as we have the town clerk's office here, we hope someday.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. That for all, there's been town clerks in Bolton since 1720. We certainly can't afford to have every one of them painted or room for them, but I'm trying to make it so that we remember those who at least worked in that town clerk's office. Just as I think it's important for a town to remember who went before you. There's a beautiful, wonderful picture of Richie Moore at Bolton Bentley Memorial Library, and every time I see your dad's picture, it's like I expect him to say, in his kind of gravelly, "Hi, how you doing?" But it has his smile, and it just captured his life, just as that captures Aunt Olive. And I'm hoping we can do more of these things so that we can have people in town that come new to town know that we have a long and proud history, and that there's people who worked hard to make this town what it is today.
Thank you, John. Now, we do have a motion before us. Anyone else have any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Thank you very much, and we'll have our staff appropriately hang it in the hall, in the town clerk's office, rather. Anything else?
May I make one other suggestion? Maybe if you want to provide a nice version of this to hang next to it, I don't know if you want a motion or something, or...
I'm not sure how much space will.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's a lot to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little spot that says she was Bolton Town Assistant Town Clerk.
From the date.
Town clerk in the years.
Right, and how long she lived for. I think
Put
a
on
long
the
time
frame.
resident.
Just real simple,
Up
like 4
small.
lines at the most. I'll bring a little butt brass for you.
These will go over during our regular business, I think.
As we get there.
Yeah, all right. Under unfinished business, we had a report here, at the discussion of the Citizens Network report, which it's rather lengthy, that was distributed at our September meeting. I don't know if anyone has any comments.
Is the one with all the rates,
Yeah,
Tommy?
it's all of this.
No, the report was distributed at the September
September meeting.
meeting. It was finding a better way financing
Right.
local public education in Connecticut by the community conversation version, the Citizens Network of the Capital Region.
Oh, that one, yes.
I read that.
I read it, and at first I was hesitant to want to endorse it only because I noticed that small towns were somewhat underrepresented by the committee, but after reading the whole thing, there was not a lot to disagree with in it. And if members of the public don't know what it is, do we have a copy in the library or somewhere where people can view it? It's called Finding a Better Way, Financing Local Public Education in Connecticut, Community Conversation version, August 2005, and it's by the Citizens Network of the Capital Region. And there's a website, so maybe you could find it at its website. It's www.citizensnetwork.info. But I agree with virtually all of the content of this report, the gist of which is that Connecticut is failing all towns, including small towns, in the way Connecticut funds public education, that our tax system is regressive, that the way we are forced to do our budgets pits townspeople against each other. They very clearly stated in the report how, because small towns and towns like ours with such a small tax base have to fund such a higher amount of mandated education, that we're forced fighting neighbor against neighbor as to how it should be funded, why it should be funded, what should be funded, whether the people with no kids need to pay the same amount as the people with kids. And this report really comes down against our current system, and it's a bipartisan report, I might add. So I just think it's worthwhile for everybody to look at the website and read this report. It's
And the hard copy of that is up here at the Selectman's office.
See if anyone would like it. I mean, as Josh pointed out, these are issues that we have faced year after year after year after year.
Getting worse.
And it is getting worse, and the report summarizes, if you've ever come to our budget hearings, particularly when it gets down to the end, it virtually highlights every point that is brought out at those hearings. And it simply states that we, as small communities particularly, cannot go on trying to fund our education system and our town government in the manner we're doing it. It's simply, the disparity is just too great. And it's fine if you have a large tax base beyond just residential, but most of eastern Connecticut is community similar to us. It's the residents that pay the tax bill. And they're asked to, year after year, to pay a greater amount because the unfortunate thing is, Josh alluded to, every session of the legislature seems to come out with another mandate that you have to do it this way or that way or add this to your curriculum. They don't take anything away. They don't say, well, forget this, that didn't work. It's add, add, add. And every time you add, that just adds more cost to running your school system, to operating it. And I think we're at a point where the system's going to break, and financially. You see the rebellion. I mean, you've all read last year's, the hassle we had this season. Bolton was, gee, we did it in 4. Coventry's still voting on it. And other communities have all gone through this. Not that they're against education, not that they want the best for their children, but they're at a point where we simply can't afford these increases anymore. What a fine way to end it, but that's the issue. And we, unfortunately, this Board of Education, Board of Finance, end up bearing the brunt of the frustration that most taxpayers feel that they can't control Washington or Hartford. And we're it. They can control us. And we unfortunately paid a penalty for that. And that's too bad because, our Board of Ed also feel that we want to do what's best for the community, but the community needs help. It simply can't go on like this. Yeah, you can do it 1 or 2 more years, but every time you do that, something gets put aside, something isn't done. And, a fine example is the hall you're sitting in today, a community hall that has about 1/3 of it available to do something. The rest of it is storing little offices. The stage in back of us becomes a large file cabinet. It's an absurdity, but that's the function of having to do with less. I'll get off my soapbox.
Can I get on the soapbox?
Example.
Yeah.
I read the report last month also, and my initial reaction was the same as Josh. I thought that small towns were underrepresented in the group, and but I read the rest of the report, irrespective of that, and I came to the same conclusion that there really wasn't anything in the report that I could disagree with. But the only hesitation I have in giving any endorsement to the report is I'm wondering if the town of Bolton is going to get any benefit from getting behind this report. I don't want to be part of a discussion that's just that. It's just a discussion, and everybody says, "Oh, this is a lot of good ideas, and we all agree," and that's it. I would like to think that I don't know that this committee has any force behind it that can make anything happen, or whether they're just going to, this is just going to go into a folder somewhere and die in a natural death, and we'll never hear about it again, because the frustration, I have gotten increasingly frustrated with the budget process, and this last year really disappointed me. And I'm looking at next year, and I don't see it getting any better, and I'm very disillusioned with the whole funding of education in the state. And it's gotten to the point where even the poorer communities cannot even afford an adequate education without overtaxing their townspeople. And the more fortunate communities like Bolton, which want to have a somewhat better level of education, we don't want the Cadillac of education, but we want a good education. We're doing the same thing. We suffer. We overtax our townspeople to pay for the level of education we want, and it's gotten to the point where it's getting just too much of a burden. We've seen the percentage of the Board of Education's budget for the town budget increasingly goes up to where the town budget is only 28% of the overall budget, and used to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 35%, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller. And I don't want to sound like I'm wanting to take the money away from the Board of Ed budget. That's not my point. My point is that in order to continue to have that education funding at the level we think we need, the town budget is increasingly suffering, and it's getting harder and harder for us to to make ends meet. And as Bob said, I don't think we can do this for more than a couple of years. We're just getting at the point where we are really, you know, use that old phrase, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. It's just getting to the point where our hands are almost tied. We can't do anything. So I would like to give this report some support, but I would like to know that it's going to go somewhere, and it's going to have some influence on the legislature to do something. That this committee is going to take some action beyond just doing this report. And I don't understand I don't fully understand what they intend to do.
I can tell you just from I have in front of me what they want us to do, Bob, if you'd like me to.
Please, you have it there.
By the way, I second Don's frustration with our state government. Even though it's a democratically controlled government, I'll tell you it's very frustrating with the lack of movement in this regard. And I think the only way small towns like ours are going to have an effect on government is if we speak out on these issues and they become public and the townspeople speak out on these issues. And I think in large part that's the intent of this project and report. And it's a large report. Well, not that large. It's 14 pages plus footnotes. But under action steps, after there's a lot of conclusions about how we need to address the tax situation, how we need to address funding situation, under action steps, this committee wants the governor and legislative leadership to act, obviously, wants business leadership to act, and then under local town leadership, I'll just paraphrase, it provides that we as selectmen need to provide leadership in developing efforts to gain additional state resources for pre-K to grade 12 education in Connecticut. We also should support the recommendations in this report by sponsoring forums, passing resolutions, and otherwise speaking out on these issues. So I think we're doing that tonight, and I think by endorsing these findings, we'll further these efforts. But as Don said, without the legislature hearing us and hearing about what these regressive taxes are doing to the local small towns, we are a bit powerless. So I guess we need to speak out.
Thank you.
Could we do something like endorse this report and send a letter to our legislators?
I would send one to the governor's office. I send one to both our legislators, the minority leader of the House, minority leader, both the House and Senate.
And maybe even meet with Representative Sawyer to talk about our concerns in that regard.
Yeah. That's a good step one. I have a second one, too.
On a yearly basis, we normally meet with both Mary Ann Hanley and Pam Sawyer to go
together.
through priority items that we have during the year, and certainly the whole tax system and the blue ribbon report that was done has always been one of our priority items with them.
Not yet. Did you meet with them?
Not in years.
Not in 3 years?
Well, I have. Sure.
Well, the whole board did.
Oh, no, as a board, probably not. No, I have, as a representative of the board, yeah, numerous times.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry.
Because
I
Yeah.
don't remember that either.
No.
Normally they'll come in a night before a selectmen's meeting, and I'll let you know when they're coming.
Right.
And then it's whoever from the Board of Selectmen shows up at that point to review priorities.
We have sat down and really discussed legislative priorities that affected us, and lots of times in the process, obviously, we did have a couple of unique projects, that the sewer project being one that truly affected us, that we made sure that whatever legislation was needed, it would be shepherded through. One other project, okay, we have did you make that a motion to?
I didn't make an motion, but I asked if it was an appropriate action to
Yeah, it would be.
endorse it.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded to endorse the report and to forward our endorsements and comments to both our representative and senator, governor's office, and also forward it to the state leadership, both in the House and the Senate. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries. We do have,
If anyone's staying wants to look at mine, you can take a look at that.
under ongoing, that's unfinished, new business. Nope. We have registrar of voters here. Oh, there they are. No, you are there.
They're both here.
You got some more good news for us? No, I didn't think so, but,
Aren't you sorry you picked tonight?
yeah, but our registrar of voters, thank you very much for coming today. They're going to give us an update on what's happening with these voting machine issues and any other appropriate information.
A brief summary of what brought us to today. It all started with the presidential election in 2000, and that brought about the Help America Vote Act, the HAVA Act. Now that act has a lot of components to it, but the principal components affecting us are handicap, accessibility, and a verified paper record for audit trail. I don't know, does everybody have the handout?
Yes.
Mhm.
Simply page 1 is an explanation of the Help America Vote Act. This act created the EAC Commission, the Elections Assistance Commission. The page 2 describes this commission and what its responsibilities are. Sorry. Okay. Page 3 is a letter from the Secretary of the State to all the registrars of voters and the town clerks advising us of a ruling from the EAC Commission that essentially the ruling is that all the lever machines must be replaced by January 1 of 2006. This is a binding ruling that affects all municipalities. And the Secretary of the State had submitted a plan back in 2003. And in their plan, they were planning to purchase a HAVA-compliant machine. That would be the handicap accessible machine. And supplement the HAVA machine with either the current lever machines or the optical scan machine. After the EAC ruling banning the lever machines, we are left with 2 options. Now we have a HAVA compliant machine and the optical scan machine. Those are the only 2 types of voting equipment that we will be allowed to use in 2006. And the last page is simply a copy of the ruling from the EAC Advisory Committee.
Now, haven't they gone and requested relief from this?
Well,
Kind of.
right.
No, I thought it was after the ruling.
So the EAC ruling came out last month on September 8th.
Yeah.
And currently, our Attorney General has submitted a report to the EAC. First of all, he's asking, does this apply to all states? And secondly, is the Judicial Department, the Justice Department, prepared to enforce this ruling? So the talks are ongoing. But the Secretary of the State's office, I don't think they're very optimistic because of the short period of time. The deadline is January 1st of 2006. They're moving forward with the assuming that the lever machines
Who's going to pay for
are
it?
gone.
Who's going to pay for this?
Okay.
We're getting.
I know you're getting there, but obviously, I hate to steal your thunder.
There is definitely going to be a financial impact on the town.
Right.
How much, no one can say at the present time. Where we are right now is on November 14th, there is going to be a demonstration, 5 simultaneous demonstrations, one in each county throughout the state, for the public, the election officials to observe a demonstration of these machines, fill out a questionnaire and a survey. This is being conducted by a group at UConn who does these surveys. Once this has been completed, at the end of November, they hope to have a report from the questionnaires and the surveys, which will give an idea. The Secretary of the State will get an idea of what the public thinks about these new machines. The two types, direct recording electronic machines, they're called DREs, more commonly known as a touchscreen machine. And the second type of voting equipment is the optical scanner. And that is the machine where the voter will be given a paper ballot, and he will color in the bubble, and then he will go and he will feed his ballot into the scanner, which will read the bubble and count the votes. Okay. Now, we were told just today that the Secretary of the State will definitely, without question, provide the HAVA-compliant machine to all of the municipalities at no cost to the municipality.
One machine.
One machine. That is the most expensive machine. It is the one that has all the equipment on it for the handicapped to use, the blind and all of that.
Now, what is this a touchstone, or do they have to fill
This
in?
is a touch screen.
Touchscreen or touch
That
tone?
is a touch screen machine. It's a DRE machine. Which machine, we don't know because it hasn't been selected yet. Okay? Apparently there are RFPs that are out there. They've gotten some responses. They hope to select this machine by December 31st because the state of Connecticut has to submit a purchase order for these machines prior to January 1 of 2006. They are going to allow the municipalities to decide how to supplement this machine. So how much is it going to cost us? We don't know yet. And we can't tell until we know which machine is going to be certified to be used in the state of Connecticut. So that's basically where we are at the present time.
And I can go just a little bit further because I was at the CCM convention today and actually spoke with a representative from Susan Beiswick's office. The state is hoping that there will be sufficient funding for the towns to get an additional machine, but again, until they go through this process, they're not sure. They thought that in November, we would know what costs we might have to include in any budget. They're still hoping that we might be able to phase some of this in, but not sure if that'll be acceptable or not.
Right. They have a very ambitious schedule. The November 14th demo, and then after the demo, then of course you have to evaluate the results of this survey. They have to finish going through the RFPs. They have to put it out to bid, and all of this has to be done by the end of the year. So there are some pros and cons to both types of voting equipment, the DREs and the optical scanners. I'm not going to get into all of that today. The registrars of voters had a lot of issues that they brought up, such as storage, the battery backup, climate control, ballot preparation, programming costs, training of the officials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We were told that all of these issues were addressed in the RFPs. They told us that the state would have been further ahead in its selection process, I think the RFPs went out in early spring, or they've been out for quite a while. But the state legislature added one more requirement that is not part of HAVA. Our state legislature passed Senate Bill number 55. I believe it was effective July 1 of 2005, that mandates that the new voting equipment have a voter verified paper receipt. So now the Secretary of the State had to contact all of these companies that had been sent the RFPs and say, now you've got to add this to your proposals. So that has delayed the process, going to increase the cost of the machine. If the board is interested, we know that these two types of voting equipment are the ones that are being considered, okay? If you would like, we could try to make arrangements for someone to come and give you a presentation on each one of these two types of equipment, because the municipality will be allowed to choose which type of voting equipment it wants to use to supplement the HAVA DRE machine.
So in other words, you could have one machine that's the touch screen,
Yes,
and then order the other one, which is a fill-in.
is the scanner. That is correct.
That would be,
The only problem with that,
and who uses one and who uses the other?
the only
Yes.
problem is programming costs. Now, where we have all the same, one programmer will be for small machines.
Oh, I know that. But I mean, but the regulation doesn't care. This is, you could have, talk about, the insanity of this thing is that they would let you have two machines that run totally opposite of each other.
Yep.
And that's okay. But a machine that mechanically you can't screw up, they find unacceptable. That's the irony of this whole situation that I have a hard time accepting. But it's, again, gee, another mandate being jammed down our throats. But,
I'd go for the fine and not for
Yes,
the machine.
done.
thank you.
That's my opinion.
There must be a criteria for the number of machines you need for the number of
Yes.
voters.
Another issue
Which
that,
I would think with the optical scanner, you would need less machines because
Right.
you
You know
want a
what's-
piece of paper and then
Yeah.
the machine just reads a
Right.
piece of paper.
okay, what is difficult for the Secretary of the State's office at the present time is that they are working under current regulations. We have current regulations for lever machines.
You have to have so
We
many
have
machines.
current regulations for the optical scanner machines. There are no regulations that have been written for the DRE machines. We do know at the present time that the current regs mandate 2 optical scanner machines per polling place. Okay? The vendors say that they can do the work with only 1, but the legislature wants us to have 2 because of the primaries. The legislature of Connecticut refuses to allow us to use the same machine for separate parties to vote on. They want each party to have its own machine. And that's why they are mandating minimum of 2 optical scanner machines per polling place.
How is that any different than an election?
Okay. What do you mean, but it's not, the primary? Yes, because only persons who are enrolled in the party can vote for the candidates of that party. For example, in August of 2006, we're going to have a state primary. At the present time, we don't know if both major parties are going to each hold a party.
There could be 2
But
primaries
if
in the
they
same
do,
time.
The same day.
then
Okay.
correct. The primary for both parties will be held on the same day. And only members enrolled in the Democratic Party will be allowed to vote for the Democratic candidates, and only members enrolled in the Republican Party will be allowed to vote for the
Can't tell the
Republican
difference?
candidates. So they want separate machines.
Benita, I have a question.
ridiculous.
I have a question to ask. With all these new machines and so forth, is this going to really confuse the voters, especially seniors and so forth?
Well, that is
I'm already confused. I haven't even voted yet.
that is a very good question, Bob, and it's an issue that is being tossed around, which is why I'm making the offer. If you would like to hear people who have been testing these machines, and I'm thinking specifically of the town of Southington, the registrar of voters there, Republican registrar of voters, Robert Sherman, they have been testing a touchscreen machine made by Avante, and they've used it at several elections. And they can tell you what the public's reaction was to that machine. Everybody thought that the elderly was going to be afraid of it and refuse to use it. But once they told them it was just like playing bingo, then they all wanted it.
I'm glad you said that, and I didn't.
I have a question. Is it accurate that the new advisory opinion only applies to federal elections?
That is correct, Josh.
So if
we
we
can
don't have a
use-
federal election for another year, we're okay.
August,
Oh, for the primary.
Primary.
yes,
Okay, so we've got the August primary, and then we've got the election in November.
that is correct. We'll be able to use our lever machines for the budget referendum. We can use the lever machines for our municipal elections. We cannot use them for gubernatorial, presidential, and primaries, state primaries.
And do you know whether whoever the appropriate state representative is has sought an extension of time of any sort for compliance? Because it's one of the memos here
Yes.
states that the lever machines must be replaced by 2006 if given an extension. So January 1, 2006 is the extension?
Yes, that is one
That's it.
extension. There
What
is
about-
a group out there who was looking to extend it further, but the EAC, we've been told, the EAC does not have the power to extend only an act of Congress, and Congress doesn't have time to act before January 1 of 2006. So they're saying the deadline will stand.
And what are the penalties for noncompliance?
We don't know yet.
So,
But,
could
well,
be-
the worst case
Well, you just
scenario
do it now,
is
take
that
time.
your election would become invalidated,
right, but in
and you would
other
have to
words,
do it again.
if we don't buy them, whatever, or rent, or however, or lease, I don't even know what the options are going to be.
Yep.
The machines by the primary,
Mhm.
there's no problem because there's no economic risk to us. But if we don't have them on the primary date, the primary could be invalidated.
I would assume so, and municipalities will probably get fined for not being in compliance.
Well, but
It's a
we don't know.
mandate.
Is
It's
there
a
a
mandate.
fine provision somewhere?
No,
Well, then.
Not yet.
I don't think-
No.
They're not going to make it up.
Right?
not yet.
Oh, all right.
And are paper ballots
Yes.
acceptable?
Um,
Pure paper ballots.
we have not been told that paper ballots will be acceptable, and I believe that the statute says that paper ballots will be used after all the machines have become incapacitated. So I don't think they will allow us to use paper ballots. I think we will be forced to get into the machine.
And the machines themselves,
Absentee ballots or paper ballots?
well,
Not absentee ballots, but paper ballots.
That's right. Pass the word.
Absentee only.
That's, wow. Well, obviously, obviously you're facing, as they say, the proverbial rock in a hard spot.
Right.
well, your number of machines will also be, they take a different amount of time by the voters.
Right.
It's the scanner, it takes 30 seconds to
That's
put that
correct.
Oh,
in.
except for
That's why
paper.
you only need
You
two
can run a lot of
scanners.
people through.
What about jams
When-
and there's going to be all kinds of problems.
Yes, but the touch screen, they've said, has taken an average of 3 to 4 minutes per person.
Right. Mike Kosick told us today that they have no choice but to go by current regulations, which is one machine for every 900 registered voters. Will the legislature change that? That's anybody's guess. We don't know. But the people who have used the machines and tested them for the state of Connecticut are saying that the people really are not taking that much longer to use these machines than the regular lever machines. I think the other option too is that the state of Connecticut has a requirement that any type of voting equipment used in this state must have a full face ballot. And I think that is going to speed up the process because now you don't have to wait for the machine to scan from page 1 to page 2 to page 3 to the next office. It's all supposed to be visible to the voter.
At one time,
That is my understanding.
on that one little screen.
Well, that's become part of the issue,
Yes.
unfortunately, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big screen.
You better be real
We're gonna
big,
have
big
a Super Bowl
screen.
party on the same machine.
Now, what we were told is that what some of the companies have done to get around this requirement is they print the full ballot. When you first turn on the machine, it prints the full ballot on the first page, but it's so small that you can't read it. And then when you go to page 1, you get your first office, your second office, your third office. So which machine are we going to end up with? What is it going to look like? We don't know. The Secretary of the State has to finish its process, its evaluation process, its RFP process, going out to bid, make their decision. From that point on, I think the municipalities can evaluate the situation and see which direction they want to go in. So that's about all the information I can give you today. Again, if you would like to get more information, if you'd like to have a presentation about the DRE machines or the optical scan machine, we can try to arrange that. Just let Joyce know. She can contact us, and we can work on that. But time is short. And they told Joyce November, they told us December.
Time is short, and we have no funds to buy a single machine. That's the other interesting part of this. Well, yeah.
The state will tell us the last minute.
I definitely would keep, you drop the candies?
The top, they don't know. It's safe, it's
Oh.
no problem.
No, I mean,
I'm just really clumsy tonight.
paper ballots, they disallowed that machine. Question arises, did they disallow paper ballots? If they don't disallow paper ballots, you can get that one scanner and go, I mean, it may take you forever to tally it, but you could do paper ballots and avoid having to do it. Of the
ballot from the optical scanner machine. I have 2 of them. Now, this machine is currently certified in the state of Connecticut. This is the one that Vernon, South Windsor, and some of the other towns are using at their budget referendum and the towns are absentee. That one is state certified, it is not federal certified.
Monita, can you check with your registrar groups and find out about this paper ballot question?
Because you can almost fill this in and turn it in. And then you have some, I mean, it would take you a couple of hours to tally up, but
Oh, you mean if we use the paper ballot?
if the machine craps out, pardon me, if the machine dies, you still have the option of hand reading the ballots.
We grew up on a farm, we understand.
Although you would think if it's that, there's got to be.
I know.
I think it's just pure wishful thinking. Because if it was this simple, nobody would be spending.
It is. Look at the ballots.
Yeah, but the feds aren't allowing. Well, let's find out. Let's find out.
You know, that's the difference between a lawyer and a non-lawyer. We always assume it's a simple solution. Well, thank you very much for all your hard work and presentation. I hope the next time we see you, you'll have fabulous news for us.
About the extension, right?
Right.
You want these back?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, thank you, yeah. They don't, we can keep that.
We can keep those? Okay, on to,
Thank you.
6B. Obviously, we had a very successful sewer referendum, so did Vernon. It's moving forward. Joyce and I and representatives, the engineering firm that's working on this, representative from DEP, and Vernon met with DEP here this past week to kind of get things going. The one thing we were really centering our discussions on was releasing of funding. We made our case and get our presentation, and the one gentleman that here is the rep from DEP is supposed to shepherd us through to get release of funds to the authority so they can begin the process of hiring needed. We do need legal staff and finding an engineering firm, having the plans drawn out, and getting things prepped to be put out to bid. The authority has a very aggressive plan to have this done next year, and to do that, it will require a tremendous amount of coordination between state and federal and local agencies. We did have good news, very good news, in that we contacted the rural development. Our application in there, our application has been accepted. They're the folks that have the $5 million plus in grants. So we're the only applicant in there now. So we're in very good stead in there. And now we're dealing with the wonderful state of Connecticut in dealing with their issues, which is going to require us doing more discussions with them to make sure that they uphold their promises. This is a very complicated funding process, and at times one agency isn't quite sure what's going on with the others, and we end up being the coordinators. And what I refer to is that the initial funding on this is supposed to be coming from the state treasurer's office as a direct loan to the authority, and then that gets paid back through DEP grants and then federal grants and loans. And this process continues until it's done. Well, sounds simple. Actually, it's complicated. It gets more complex since these folks have never done this before. So the authority is pushing to get this process going and to get the whole process going because, quite frankly, I think Josh was at the last meeting, it is the intent of the board to get this thing out for bid for next year, to get construction in for '07. And the state thinks that we're optimistic. Well, I think the authority is at a point where we're done screwing around. We want to get this thing done and moving forward. You can probably put it in a much more other terms, but
I think we had, as Bob indicated, extensive discussion at the last Bolton Lakes Regional Water Pollution Control Authority meeting, and I actually wanted to try and push our schedule even more than everyone else, and our engineer from Fuss and O'Neill simply said that it ain't going to happen. I don't know if that's more eloquent or not. That we have such limitations in getting the funding together in a timely fashion, and then putting it out to bid for such a massive project that 2006, late 2006 for the bids is optimistic. There's just so much environmental work, so much engineering work, and as much as I would have liked to have seen it happen sooner, it's just too optimistic. So but everyone should know that the sewer authority is working extremely hard and diligently to put everything together and move it forward as quickly and appropriately as possible.
You want?
Well, and unfortunately, it's not necessarily all a matter of DEP not wishing to work with us. The Clean Water Fund is their major source of money, and it has been drawn down considerably, and during last legislative session, not all the funding was put back into place. So DEP does not necessarily have all the funding that they expected to be put towards all of these projects. Coventry is a perfect example. They're in the last phase of a project and waiting for the DEP funds to come in. So unfortunately, as much as DEP may wish to work with us, some of the funding issues that are plaguing various aspects of the state are now going to probably affect us as well.
Which slows things down. However, they did say they would put us in a little special category to move things along, since we are the one and only in the first regional authority. That was a positive note on it. A couple other positive notes. One of the questions we did ask is that when we do the engineering, we're going to have to do a lot of surveying, and I guess it was agreed that they're going to refly and reshoot the town so that we can now have a GS.
They're looking into that possibility based on what funding is left at this point in
From the original grants.
From the original
We
grant.
might get that. That would be a real asset to us outside the sewer authority. Anyone else have any questions or comments? If not, I'm going to go on to the next item. Status of capital projects.
We have various capital projects going on. In the last month, month and a half now, paving projects have been completed. We have begun some of the work with the trees throughout town, hiring a company to come in and do various trimming for us. The fire department waterproofing project, basically with the weather, unfortunately, that we've had, they were scheduled to start, and that has been postponed, waiting for brick to dry out a little bit. The Notch Road Municipal Center, we had done several fire code updates there. The town's portion is completely done at this point and accepted. The school had to do some replacement of some windows in a couple of their classrooms. Basically, the windows are on back order, and we're waiting for that to be done. Town Hall, if you've looked out back of the Town Hall recently, you will see that that rear wall project is well underway, and they have made tremendous progress. The first 15-foot piece was, I think, interesting for them. They didn't have any idea how far down the foundation even went or how big the rocks would get as they went down. And they're finding as they move their way across, the rocks are getting bigger at the bottom. So it's creating additional interest for them. You do have on that project, we just received a letter from Allied Construction. Their current agreement, they have 120 days to complete the project, meaning basically the project should be done by the end of October. For various reasons, they did not start the project right away, as the letter explains. They're looking for basically an additional 6 weeks from now, which would basically put them a month beyond the 120 days. And they're asking for that consideration. This project is actually with the Public Building Commission at this point, and we'll forward the letter to them. It'll come back eventually with a recommendation from PBC, I would guess, as to when the project is done, collecting or not collecting that additional dollars. So far, they have not run into anything that they had not anticipated, and have been good to work with on the project.
Because right now, they've done 3 sections, and now up to the back of the kitchen here. And we'll be moving, that's where we have the jog, and be moving next week underneath the town clerk's office. And what they simply did was dug down the rubble, and the foundation that was under there wasn't a foundation. It was 1 step above rubble, just stones stacked there. And they dug down, poured a high foundation, and framed up. One of the little quirks of the thing. Certain doors that never closed before actually closed when they jacked up the building, and
Other doors now stick that
other
didn't
doors
stick.
now stick by leveling things a bit. One of the modifications we had discussed, I think we did put that in, is making a set of double access doors to the back for future, in case we ever have to, if you've never been down there, it's a dirt basement. It's pretty high in places, dirt basement. If we ever do want to finish that off, by finishing, I mean just putting concrete so it's a proper storage, you'd really need to get some small gas-powered equipment in there. So now's the time to put a couple of swing doors. As we noted, one of the issues that were brought up is that we have a proper exit through there, and so they're taking care of staircases and accesses. That's the part, I think the doors way, that's the next section they're working on.
I believe so. And the interesting part of this is they are going through, unfortunately, normally you would measure once and cut your studs. They're having to go through and measure the height for each stud and cut it separately because there's just no consistency. And that is unfortunately taking more time.
Are we on budget?
Yes,
Yep.
they have not found
There's
anything.
nothing that extraordinary other than just, it's the process is time consuming.
And how's their work?
We have not had concerns with their work. The engineer, or the structural engineer that we had come out to initially draw up the plans has been out to inspect how they are going about the project and what they're using to jack it up and support it and not have any issues. And interestingly enough, Holly Hood, who is our sanitarian's father, is involved in that. He does lectures on structural engineering and those types of issues and found it very interesting and also agreed that what they're doing is very sufficient and they probably would not even have to go as far as they are.
Is if we were to approve this request, we're turning down about $6,000 in fees that they would be charged for going over the contract date.
I actually just got this just prior to the meeting today, so I have not looked at their dollar amount.
Is there a penalty for?
There is a penalty, but I
Not all of our
don't,
contracts.
On it by the day.
and it's a penalty by the day. But I was not confident in the amount of the penalty and did not have a chance to look at that because I was just given this.
Well,
I'm not really that happy about the fact that they're running so late. I mean, they started really late. I mean, 120 days for what we were told was a 4 to 6 week job is plenty of time, I think.
Well, it does go through the PBC, then back to us with their recommendation.
He can't
Then we
meet,
act.
they can't meet with us on any Monday night, which is our regularly scheduled night. So we haven't met with them.
who, Allied Construction? I must say that their reasoning for seeking the extension is not a very good one, that they had other jobs they had to finish. When you bid on a project, you take that into consideration. That said, if they're doing a good job, moving forward well now, while I'm not inclined to agree to an extension, I'd say let's play it by ear. In other words, I don't want to agree to waive any penalty, but let's see how they do, and then we can deal with it later. Because if they started 80 to 90 days into their 120-day contract time, and they're estimating 6 weeks to finish, let's hope they're as good at estimating their finish. No, let's hope they're a lot better at estimating their finish than they were at preparing to start. So I'm not inclined to agree to any waiver of any penalty or agree to any extension. But at the same time, I don't want their work to become worse because they're rushing to finish. So I'd say let's keep that in our pocket, if you will.
Okay, in order.
On other capital projects, the new truck for the highway department, the delivery date has been postponed. Unfortunately, much of the truck parts and to build the chassis goes through North Carolina, and that area has been affected by some of the hurricanes, so it has been postponed for basically another month. The new senior van, just had a meeting on that last week. We're in the process of finally having the opportunity to order the new senior van. It would not be here until in the spring. What we are looking at this point in time is basically a 2 wheelchair plus 10 passenger. And we looked at that option, recognizing the need of the seniors and especially in the future, and allowing for 2 wheelchairs immediately. Any of our others currently has just 1 wheelchair accessibility, and we have the ability to take out seats to create more. But this looked like an option that would meet needs as we foresee them and be far more usable. The town hall, we just received a quote and have gone forward with Fred Price, who had designed the senior center and had done work actually on the projects for Notch Road and the library to develop a plan to replace the handicap ramp outside of Town Hall here and create a new entranceway into the main hall area. And I think that is all of the...
It's come to my attention that to replace the ramp on this side of the building was sort of counterproductive to handicap. The whole thinking about handicapped accessibility is to make it as accessible as possible, which is that the ramp would be in the closest entrance to the building. So I'm wondering if to replace the ramp when it's the farthest, if that's really the best approach.
It has to do with entryway. Neither one of these doors will be compliant. You place the ramp, you put a new doorway, you close that doorway, so you have to have an opening that's ADA compliant. We don't have an opening on any of these that's ADA compliant.
But that's right.
Here, you'd have to, part of the ramp design is also a new door.
But that would mean that the person coming up the ramp comes directly into our meeting room.
Into here,
Right.
correct?
That's kind of a lousy plan.
Well, this is a hell of a time to bring that up. I mean, we've been doing this thing for 6 months.
I don't know. I haven't seen it as far as I know.
We've been talking about this thing for 6 months, to come in and say, we're going to redesign this whole thing, and
We
to come in the front. I mean,
We asked
I don't
the
understand this.
architect to give us a plan, and the architect's first comment is, why are you putting the ramp where it's the farthest away? And it's a really good question.
Actually, I've not had any discussion with the architect, so I hadn't heard any of this.
I just happened to talk to Bob Grillo and the architect yesterday, both of whom said that exact same thing. I didn't make this up.
And that's fine. And we're at the design phase.
Right.
And looking at the various aspects of this, and we'll give consideration to all of those types of issues. And I know part of the thought was where the handicap parking is currently, that, you know, they could flow around. And, you know, we can certainly look at that.
Can I ask a question? And again, I'm not privy to any of these design issues either, but wouldn't it sort of just be a swap if you put it on that side versus that side?
I think part of it will depend on how far out we have to go and if you're going to impact the parking lot, because certainly I know cars backing up, how close we are now with cars backing up and that would be the one thing that I would have a concern with, to make sure that, you know, because it won't just be a straight ramp because there's too much height. You have to put in a stop. And I don't know how far out it's going to go from the building.
We could,
don't
Wait
have
a
any-
minute. When you get that 14 inches of snow and you go to plow it, where the hell are you going to put it? You could put it on top of the ramp. Because if you've been out here after 2 heavy snowfalls, you've noticed we've had 9, 10, 15 feet of snow packed right in front of this building. If you have a ramp going there, where are you going to put your snow? On top of the ramp?
well, I'm sure there's ways to plow.
There is no way of doing that logically. You got to consider that. That was part of the consideration why that was there in the first place.
So in other words, the snow removal is more important than accessibility for the handicapped?
Don't give me that crap.
I mean, that actually...
Accessibility through here gives them accessibility. Snow removal is part of the practical aspect of how and why you design. It also looks, why do you have a little garden area here? Because when you enter an area, it gives it a little more pleasant look.
But when,
Not a huge ramp that you're going to have to come up through here.
I think
And why wasn't this brought up before?
because we hired an architect and the architect brought up the issue.
Well, I can tell him why.
But
Well,
Bob,
and
it's worth discussing.
It's worth discussing.
That's
I
only
would-
my point.
I would suggest that, certainly the architect has not done anything yet. He has not done any work because he has not received anything yet to authorize him to go ahead with the project. So
Who's
my
the
suggestion, Fred Price,
Oh.
Price Meister. My suggestion is that obviously this project will fall under the Facilities and Public Safety, that it go to that subcommittee.
I have his, whatever he dropped off at Town Hall, and there's no architectural design in it.
No, that was strictly the proposal to do the architectural design. That's it.
I don't think that Leslie's comment should be completely disregarded. I think it has some merit. I think that it should at least be considered for the feasibility. If it's not feasible, that's fine. I don't think it's something to get that excited about.
No, I don't, that's why I think I would hope that the Board of Selectmen has trust in their Facilities and Public Safety Subcommittee to handle this issue.
So let's take a look at it.
Works for me. It's 9 o'clock and I've lost it. It's my Italian getting to me. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said,
No, I just,
I mean, initially
I
we
understand
were
where you are.
replacing the existing ramp, true. But then when he said, why are we putting it there, I said, that's a really good question. So that's the only reason I bring it up. I don't want the meeting to go any
Thank you.
Can we
I have a feeling we're going to be here a long time.
After
we go
8:30.
through like I do and cross out what we're not going to do?
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
All right. On to D, preliminary discussions of budget. Joyce, can you do it in 3 minutes?
Well, basically, we are
Have no
ready
money.
to move forward. We're already a couple weeks behind on beginning the preparation of next year's budget. And what I had handed out to the Board of Selectmen was the cover letter that I sent last year with the budget to see if you had any comments or suggestions or areas that you would like to see change, because we would obviously like to get the budgets out for the various boards, commissions, and departments to begin their work on them. How was that?
Good.
That's 2 minutes, Joyce, that's good.
Excellent.
We're going to ask them.
Where's the letter?
Same letter we send every year.
The same letter we send out.
Yeah, same letter we send out, asking them to,
I've seen it being on a board and commission receiving it, but I haven't seen it being sent. So I imagine it's the same letter.
Same letter.
All right, I don't have it, but okay.
Any comments?
I don't think we have any changes.
Are we going to ask in that letter, well, we just ask them for their budget, and if they give us an inflated budget, they give us an inflated budget. But I think that, in your discussion with the various boards and commissions and anyone else you talk about, let them know that we're not anticipating any easier time this budget season as in years past, and don't include any fluff. And I'm not indicating that anyone has ever included any fluff, so don't call me, don't email me. I'm just saying, going forward, don't include any fluff.
That was good. Glad you said that. No, I think most of the folks that prepare this have been through it long enough that they truly understand the difficulty of they're wanting to do the best job they can, and we simply don't have the funds to do it.
Right, we asked them to submit a budget that reflects their needs and any increases to fully explain them and be prepared to help us defend it both to the Board of Finance and to the public. And normally we do have a December, mid-December date for these to be back. I would assume that, again, that is agreeable with the Board of Selectmen, that we normally set all of January and February essentially as budget workshops.
Yes.
Spend our winter months together. hot chocolate and coffee, and a red pen. On item E, consider an act upon budget transfer or appropriate request.
We have one of those, which just came forward. It's for the unemployment budget, which is the Board of Finance. Unfortunately, we have some ongoing unemployment claims. This takes care of both any Board of Ed employees as well as town staff, and we have expensed the appropriation already for the year.
This doesn't say Furman too.
There's only one account in the unemployment.
Where's the money coming from?
You do not get to determine where the money comes from. The Board of Finance by charter has that within their powers to decide if they want to take it from the contingency fund or from cash surplus.
They're asking for the money, but then they decide where they're gonna take it from.
All right, I make you need a motion
Yeah.
for this,
Yes.
or I make a motion that we transfer money into unemployment compensation, $5,000.
Second.
Any comments, questions?
Just one, this is multiple claims, not one large claim?
Correct, correct.
Anything unusual by the claims, or just had some occurrences?
Unfortunately, we've had one claim that has gone, last year, we had a similar item in, for consideration in the same budget. It's one budget that one year we can have $3,000 left over, the next year we can be short thousands of dollars. We never know in the budget preparation.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really out of the town side control at this stage of the game. Motion is made and second, all in favor? Aye, opposed, nay, motion carries. Ongoing business, subcommittee report. The
Labor?
well, no, not labor. We're,
One of them.
They did too.
Yeah.
what's our official?
Human relations.
Human Resources.
Right.
Subcommittee met. We interviewed several individuals who applied to fill the vacancy on the town highway department. After consideration, the subcommittee put forth the name of Chip Joseph White, and we had a good interview, and it was a unanimous decision by those there. We also, part of the review, the interview board was Joyce and also the town foreman. All on the interview recommended Chip for that position. So we're making a recommendation to the full board tonight. We do need a motion to.
We need a motion to accept.
Yeah.
I second it.
Did you actually?
Yeah.
Yeah, the motion was made and seconded to, you appoint, we hire. Joseph White, Jr., no, it's Chipper White, to fill the, what's the?
Crewman one
Crewman one
position,
position on the highway.
Effective November 7th.
So moved.
And it's Bob seconded. All in favor of the motion indicate, or do you have any comments or questions? I'm sorry. All in favor?
Unanimous endorsement, I don't think there's any.
Yeah, it was pretty clear.
Pretty unanimous.
All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I've got one other item on that committee.
Yeah.
I think that's that committee. Joyce, I attended the CCM Labor Committee. Is that under that subcommittee? Okay. I went to the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities Labor Committee down in New Haven last Tuesday or Wednesday. That is a bipartisan group. I found it very interesting by what they decided not to do. The focus of the meeting was on the CCM Labor Committee's legislative agenda, and and I'm new to the committee, so I didn't speak much. I mostly listened, but that group of mostly town managers and selectmen and personnel officers decided not to bring up eliminating binding arbitration because, based on their statistics, binding arbitration is a 50-50 proposition, if not better, and they don't feel that it's broken. which I thought was an interesting comment because it was news to me. They did vote to bring up in the next legislative session an increase in fees, a small increase in fees, staggered over a number of years for filing for arbitration. And that is because some of the larger municipalities will get hit with 100 grievances at once as a power play, and the fee is $25 a pop, and therefore they wanted to raise that fee to help offset some of the costs involved there. We don't have any, that I know of, we don't have any of those labor issues, but I thought the binding arbitration comment was very interesting because the CCM committee felt that the people who don't know how binding arbitration works are the ones that attack it the most, and that was their statement, not mine. As I said, I mostly listened, but it was a pretty interesting meeting.
Thank you. Can't believe they came up with that conclusion.
Talk to the chairman out of Southington, I believe.
John Weichel.
Yes.
Longest-standing town manager. He was just recognized at the ICMA conference. He has served 50 years as a town manager.
Well, Bob, I can tell you there was an editorial written about a year and a half ago, and it cited a state study that was done, I believe, 3 years ago, which the statistics were that 51% of the time binding arbitration favors the community and 49% of the time it favors the union, which means it works. It's doing what it's supposed to do. So it's a statistic.
The problem with the statistic doesn't show is small municipalities such as Bolton have unions of 5 and 6 people. And it is too costly for them to bring virtually any issue to binding arbitration. So what happens is the towns settle because it's cheaper to pay whatever it is that you're negotiating against than to bring it to binding arbitration. That's the aspect of the binding arbitration rule that really needs to be tweaked to allow smaller communities. Yeah, it's not the binding arbitration per se. It's that part of it where it's different than when you're negotiating a school contract. You've got 100 and some odd employees. Okay, there's significant dollar issues you're talking about. It could be well worth the legal expense, whatever, to go to binding arbitration for an issue. But if you're dealing with, well, our largest townside employee group is 22 people.
No. You're talking 12, 13.
Oh, 13.
Yeah.
I forgot, we got several
We
unions.
have
Right.
four unions.
Right, and we have 4 unions. That's the largest. We have some with 5 and 4.
Yes.
And that's the thing. It doesn't, I mean, fortunately, we've been able to negotiate things out, but, there may be a point where you can't. But and you're dealing, $5,000 worth of actual issue, it'll cost you triple that just to bring the binding arbitration. Even if you win, you lose. You can't win. And that's where, when I had spoken with the legislator, that was the point we try to make, is that there you need to look at it. You have to devise a more equitable system.
I don't disagree with that.
And the other issue with the binding arbitration, depending on if you're looking at teachers or town side, whether or not they take into account your fund balance as possible use of funds towards this. And towns such as Bolton, which we struggle to make what bond council or anybody else wants to see us have in our fund balance, to then say that that's an emergency rainy day fund, but we can use that for wages, is just not appropriate.
Maybe, Bob, you can come with me to the next meeting.
Yeah.
You won't meet again until next year.
Oh, all right.
No, it's going to be, it's easier for a town that size that has larger unions because it has worked. I was in a teachers union for 10 years, back when they did have strikes, and I can recall times when, you had systems shut down for weeks at a time. And the same thing with police departments. I mean, obviously, there's a benefit to this, but like anything else, there's always a little corner that somehow gets left out or has difficulties, and that's it. The smaller communities with small unions, it really does hurt them.
If the alternative to binding arbitration is the ability to strike, this town couldn't withstand that.
Right.
So, eliminating.
Like you say, you've got to adjust what's there. I don't think anyone would even suggest eliminating, but just making it better.
And prior to this meeting, the Finance and Administration Subcommittee met
Right.
very briefly with some members of the Board of Finance. Unfortunately, that meeting had been scheduled a long time before the Board of Selectmen's meeting had been rescheduled. So we did talk about having another meeting when our normal subcommittee meeting night occurs. But we did begin discussions with them on the budget and really didn't have an opportunity to go into any type of revenue discussion or we're going to do some work on collecting some samples of budgets from other communities.
And part of our discussions, and I think Don brought it up, Joyce brought it up, was in the budget process. At the end, folks get to look at these numbers without really a description as to. Now wake us up. We'll reconvene. We're on item B. We have discussed that previously. I don't think there's anything else to discuss, which is Bolton Lake's wastewater management project. Senior housing. I did get a call today. There has been a contract signed on the drive-in theater property for a senior housing project. Gentleman wants to come and meet the subcommittee with the seniors, so we're looking to set that up.
Wow.
This coming month.
So that will happen when the sewers happen?
No, prior to.
Really?
I asked that, yeah.
That's,
Like what? Like how many?
So what would he do for, gonna dig his own well over there and so forth?
I can't tell you that.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it's just literally, I do know the contract was just signed this past week. Which would, like any other real estate contract, there are stipulations. I think the minimum requirements are like 38
38 what?
units.
Oh.
And for a site that big, that's not bad. And there's a couple other minor contingencies they'd put in there, but I don't think there's anything there that.
Is there a lakefront property on it
I
included?
can't hear you, Leslie.
Is there a lakefront property included?
Well, there's that.
Theater.
Well, that roadway.
You have the roadway in is actually shared by three parties.
Right.
It's shared by the owner of that property, the town because of access to Fraser Park, and the state because they actually have a mud boat launch down at the pond there.
Okay.
So but I think I'm not sure, but I think the fee simple line is by the lake, and it probably goes with the theater property. These all have rights of way across it. So that's part of it, and part of what their thought to me, what they'd like to do is incorporate something that enhances the lake and also the park. I said, got to be a town benefit in this thing.
It's purely private, though. Are they asking for
Nope.
town?
No. it's
No.
Purely private.
So no town concessions, nothing?
They didn't ask me for anything, I don't know.
But does that also mean then that it's not necessarily going to be affordable?
Funny you mentioned that. Part of my discussion was, I did explain what we had offered before, that we do the trash if you have X number of percentage of affordable units. And they thought that was a good idea, and I think that's part of the proposal they're going to bring to us.
I'd be happy to consider concessions if they're going to make the housing affordable.
I said, I was up front because I was asked about this when they started going in there, what we had proposed before, and openly we had proposed that we would do concessions such as that. The one thing would be that they would have to have a certain number of houses what we consider affordable to seniors in our community.
Terrific. Talk to them.
And we invite the rest of the senior study committee to come in with that.
Indeed.
What about the Toomey property?
Who?
Toomey property?
Um, That we walked last
2 weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago, just before the monsoons, with Mr. Toomey and John Ianni, Bob Grillo, checking it out, and he hasn't, well, he's coming back up. Did he?
No. It appeared that there might be a portion of it that we could
Suitable.
might be suitable, and we could do some testing. However, it was recommended at that point in time that we wait until we had some moisture back in the ground.
That was when we were in a
Right.
drought situation?
So
Yeah, we have some moisture back in the
Right.
ground now.
we believe that we have reached that point.
We'll now go in there and check that site out.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
So we went from, but this one I thought was good news I wanted to share with you.
That's
Fine.
great.
Rose Farm, we did receive 8 various proposals. Prior to sending them out, we did say that once we got them, we would have an open discussion hearing to present what's out there and get feedback from the public. A suggested date to do that would be the night of our subcommittee, maybe after we meet with the gentleman that wants to do the senior housing. That work?
Did you say, we have a date, or we're
No,
gonna?
I'm going to
Looking at-
suggest that, you know, our normal subcommittee meeting night, like at 7:30, we can have a earlier meeting on the senior housing
6:30
issue.
meeting on the
Right.
senior housing.
Housing, then
7:30.
7:30. Right. This would give folks who are coming in home late from work a chance to come in here and talk.
It's just informal, not like a public hearing.
No,
Well,
it would be basically like an open forum
Right.
where you could go through the proposals with the public and take in any comments that they might have or ideas or suggestions. That if you had a chance to look at them, some of them are ideas and some are actual proposals.
Since we don't have a,
The only thing about the date would be if you didn't feel that there was going to be sufficient time to get the word out, because you would be looking at November 15th, if I did the math correctly, because we meet on November 1st.
Right.
And if you cannot meet then you're into December
Yeah.
because of Thanksgiving holiday. You probably not want to try to,
Yeah, I think we should meet this soon, if we have to meet again, because I don't think we're going to have a plan developed
oh,
that
no,
night.
no.
what's the date?
That's a Tuesday, the 15th.
Okay, the 15th? Do you want a
Right.
motion to
Yes,
have it?
please.
I would make a motion that we have an open forum at 7:30 on the 15th to discuss the various proposals for Rose Farm.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
So we'll meet with the architect at 6:30? Is that what we said, or no?
No, the subcommittee on senior housing
Senior
will
housing.
meet.
This is the developer himself coming in to meet.
Yeah, so we'll meet, wait, so, I'm
The
just putting my.
subcommittee, which is the
Subcommittee.
finance and administration,
Yeah,
will meet with their senior housing subcommittee, will look to meet with the developer prior to the Board of Selectmen's forum on the Rose Farm.
so that'll be 6:30?
Correct.
Okay,
The
7:30
subcommittee,
is the,
all right, because I'm not on that committee. Okay, good. All right.
That will be here at the town hall?
yes.
yeah. Got it?
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, November 15th.
Because we don't actually, we don't actually propose.
Plan of conversation. Plan of conservation. That, yes.
Will the public be able to see those,
They're up here if you would like to look through
Sure, anyone's
them.
welcome to a copy of them.
In the selectman's office, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Are all members of the Board of Selectmen invited to that subcommittee meeting, or is it?
Sure, and that's why I mentioned it.
Okay.
Once there's three of us, Josh, it's a public meeting.
All right.
Except conversation's gonna be short because we're locked to an hour.
Are you looking for senior housing, Josh?
I'm looking. Look at the gray hair.
Oh, don't talk to me about right here. At least you got here. All right, enough of that discussion. Plan of Conservation and Development, where does it stand there? Is it,
Planning and zoning is still working its way through.
Good. Okay.
We're finished with that.
Right, revenue sources, we actually didn't get a chance to get into that discussion with Board of Finance. We did say, we requested to meet with them again, to go over that particular issue, and we'll have to set up a time for that.
We proposed that be soon. We weren't going to.
Right. No, we gotta do, yeah.
We had actually proposed that to be the night of your next subcommittee meeting, which we've now just scheduled 2 other meetings, so we'll have to look at it.
We'll work on
Do
that
that
night.
Can I just say something?
Yeah,
Just to get back briefly on that meeting we're going to have on the 15th, there's a note here that the Bolton Community Education Foundation would like to be a part of the process. Can we make sure they're notified?
Yes, if you read on further, I had suggested that it would create more community involvement to invite all community stakeholders to the open
Everybody.
forum for
Okay.
the proposal review.
and under my report, very briefly, I just want to give you an update of, obviously, we had a very serious storm this past weekend. We were very fortunate. We just had one major problem. That was Johnson Road. That, where the Boy Scout camp is, that dam, the outlets plugged up with brush. The road flooded, went heavily across the road, swept all the gravel that the person had put over there in front of his building, swept it down the street, piled it up about 2 feet high, so it made the street impassable, shot down the driveway of the person that lives on the bottom of the street. He had dug a 3-foot trench there and ended up probably 1,000 yards down into that marshy area. So it did quite a job there. The crew was out that Saturday morning. They were able to clean everything up and have the road by noontime. It was open and running. We had school road culvert. That one, again, with branches come down, it flooded that. It shifted the pipe at the far end, but not enough to create a problem. They filled that in, and that's been secured. We also had flooding on the other side of School Road, down between 85 and Even Road. For a brief time, went over the road. Same thing on Lyman Road. It briefly went over that. But all those by midday on Saturday, the waters had receded to a level where there wasn't a problem. Other than some washouts and some trees down, we fared this extremely well compared to some of the other communities around us. So I'd like to credit that part of it to the job our highway crew does in maintaining it, those culverts, and making sure they're clear, but a lot of it is a little bit of luck too.
So the Beaver Dam held up?
One of you should mention that. Now, it's the first thing I checked, and the beavers apparently no longer habit that thing because the Beaver Dam is starting to disintegrate. There was a breach on the top, probably about a 6-inch on one corner. So it's starting to go. We're going to go back out there and visit it this week just to see its ability, and see if we can't just lower the top all the way across down 6 inches, just to bring that lower the water level down. Because if this hurricane that's down in Florida comes up and hits again, and that really gets impacted, there's a chance that could breach, because nothing's maintaining it.
Give it to the beavers.
And that's my report. Yeah, you're no longer there. And once, the dam hasn't been repaired in 2 months, so.
What about charter revision, Bob? You have it on your
Oh, yes,
your agenda?
charter revision. We've been working on it. We
don't
did,
want to spend any more time.
no, we did send letters out to town committees to form this, and it would behoove us to get this done within the next 2 months, so that, and that's a short window to have this available to be voted on next November.
I
don't think we can do it.
I don't think that's feasible, and if I could just go perhaps one step farther into part of my report, the Board of Selectmen is overwhelmed with items that need discussion, and I would suggest that the Board of Selectmen look at a retreat date to discuss many of these items.
Dennis?
It sounds good.
I know Bob doesn't like to go overseas, but I thought that'd be a wonderful.
If the townspeople will allow it.
We go to Cape Cod, we go to Cape Cod and have a meeting?
There you
We
go.
can. We could go to the.
But all
you
kidding
normally
aside,
retreats
my
are-
I mean, Joyce makes a point. Just by going over, we have so much on the table. If we could just sit down on maybe 3 or 4 hours, and we can probably lay out a long-term plan and maybe move things along a little quicker. If we can find a day that we could do it.
Are we talking about a weekend or?
I would, I
part of-
guess that it would be a Saturday.
That's that.
Can we meet at Georgina's?
Not in the evening, though.
No, no.
In the afternoon.
Somewhere where it's relaxed and
Yeah,
where you can
it's a
sit
good
down.
idea. They got a meeting room there.
That's right. As long as
They'll be open by then, Josh.
I would,
after 12 o'clock.
I was
You're buying,
actually
Josh,
going
you're buying.
to suggest that perhaps we look
Location and
at the
executive session.
senior center conference room.
Yeah.
Just get it out of here, get it into a smaller,
Well, right.
You know what? We can have it at my house if you'd like. We can work in. I got a kitchen table or dining room table and
can we bring in a pad of paper and,
whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
Make it less formal surrounding.
yes, I just,
appreciate it, yeah.
there are just so many issues right now facing the Board of
And
Selectmen
coming up.
and coming up for consideration that I think you need to have a retreat to really go through so many of these issues.
And I won't,
in
and
the
I
best
won't
interest of
lose
the
my,
town.
my temper anymore. My wife's gonna
Like
kill me.
about
My
when?
wife's gonna kill me.
Well, and
We're
perhaps,
also going to tape record it and play it over and over again for you, I think.
Hey, Josh, just have some wine for Bobby that night.
All right, that's fine.
and
Bianchi?
perhaps after this meeting, you can all talk to me about possible dates, or if you know Saturdays that are not good versus Saturdays that are good, that we could look to set that up.
And this is in November, we think, right?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes.
Summer camp recap?
Summer camp recap. You received in your packet information on summer camp over the last 5 years. I bring this forward especially because for the first time since the very first year, we showed a negative for summer camp. Enrollment was down. However, the Connecticut Recs and Parks Association actually showed that all summer camps attendance was down. And they were trying to do a survey as to why, and nobody knows quite yet. But, we don't know if it's based on, school population has a lower amount, the cost, who knows? But where in the last couple of years, we have been bringing in roughly $9,000 to $11,000 into the Recreation Round Fund to help keep it afloat. We're now $1,000 in the hole. So as we move forward during this current budget year, we will most likely have a deficit in the Recreation Fund and need to seek additional funds.
Okay.
And in part, this is impacted too, because they would have gotten money from from Indian Notch.
No, this is strictly summer camp.
That's
Yeah.
strictly summer.
Yeah.
This is strictly summer camp.
That's been generally a great revenue source for
Yeah.
not this year.
That's how it goes.
I've got 2 young kids, and I'm sure my wife's aware of it, but I wasn't that well aware of the summer camp. And I'm wondering how good, and maybe Tracy can come and talk to us about this, but how good our publicity is. Does she participate at that camp fair in the...
Participates at the camp fair. It's in the community newsletter. It's on the website. A letter goes home at the school level with every child.
Well, does Tracy have an idea has she discussed with you why she thinks enrollment was down this year?
No, there's no clear indication, and statewide, the enrollment in camps were down this year. So it's not just Bolton, it's all the different camps of this type, youth camps, showed a decrease in enrollment for the current year.
Interesting. Okay, well,
See?
You just
It could, I mean, it could be related to the economy, people's concerns, I mean,
Yeah, no, I just said B.
go B. Speak loud
Actually-
this ear, please.
Actually,
And if it doesn't
I
go
had,
over, use an elbow, right? Joyce?
much as I had included the report that you discussed, the Citizens Network report, I included in your packet a Connecticut Municipality Best Practices Survey that was done. As a small town, there's a lot of pieces of it that do not apply to us. We actually, if you look at their measurements, Bolton fits fairly well in are we doing all that we can do? Based on time, if any of you have any questions or want to know where we are, I'd be happy to talk to you individually about it. I had also passed out under C the Connecticut budget information. This is statewide information on the budgets. I had also given this information to Board of Finance. While you cannot compare towns because you don't know what their equalized grand list might be, you can look at what types of increases are out there for budgets and see that our 5% increase is not out of range with other communities. Bob spoke earlier about Coventry. Yes, they are at another budget referendum today. They're still operating without a current year budget. So we're definitely more fortunate than they are. Questions on any of that I can answer now, I'd be happy to answer them afterwards.
I would just point out that in our the Connecticut Municipal Best Practices Survey put out by CBIA and Northeast Utility System and a law firm, our own Doug Fisher is quoted in there, and there's a picture of him, and he's a Bolton resident,
Yep.
who actually I think has just applied to get on the Economic Development
Right.
Commission.
Yes. Also, under my report, in addition, I had received the information, the update from the Economic Development Commission as to their activities during the last month. And within that, I had already discussed that letters had gone out to the businesses on the 44 corridor about the sewer project. We also had a meeting with Mary Ellen Kowaleski, the Director of Community Development at Capital Region Council of Governments, and they are in the process of coming back with a proposal to us. We are looking to work with them to develop a strategic plan for the Route 44 corridor. They've done a similar thing in a portion of Hartford and in Granby, and so this would also give them an opportunity to do something in a rural community, and we need to see the proposal before we can move forward, but it certainly is something that would be extremely worthwhile to the town, and feel that Planning and Zoning would also be happy to be involved with it, Board of Selectmen, Economic Development, and other parties as we move forward. They also, in looking at that, had looked at STEEP program as a possible source of funding. That's one of the items I think that need to look at for a retreat to discuss a little bit further, because there's a multitude of projects that we could potentially use STEEP funding for and need to sort through the priority of some of those. They have solicited donations for the EDC Trust Fund, and I'm happy to report that they received their first check for $500 contribution into that fund. And they are looking at starting a farmer's market in Bolton, which seems to carry a lot of enthusiasm behind it. You had handed out this evening, they had finally just set their first Bolton business gathering. It's scheduled for Wednesday, November 2nd from 5:30 to 7:30 at Villa Louisa, and there is an invitation for each member of the Board of Selectmen to attend that. We also, interestingly enough, I was also contacted by Chick Schifrin, who is the first selectman in the town of Columbia, about a Route 6 task force, including the towns of Coventry and Andover. I went to that meeting last week, and it's not exactly what you are probably thinking. It's basically a realization that probably not much is going to change by the state along Route 6. And so consideration should be given to the 4 towns to form an economic task force for that stretch of road. And we'll be having another meeting in November. And again, I think this ties in with we're looking at the Route 44 corridor, Route 6 corridor is our other second major business area. And we'll be looking at outlining, what's there now, how is it zoned, how can we move forward. Economic Development Commission has also requested that the size of their commission be made larger. What I don't believe they recognize, that we have 2 people who are interested, David Loda, who I know the Board of Selectmen knows, and Doug Fisher, who works for Northeast Utilities, and they currently have a vacancy for an alternate position, but to put both of these gentlemen on, you would need to add another position onto the Economic Development Commission. You can do that under the power invested in you by the ordinance that I handed out to you before, and certainly would make that recommendation that for once, rather than trying to find people to find that, we actually have
I'd like to make a
over-interest.
motion that we allow Economic Development Commission to have 2 additional members.
Actually, one additional,
We're gonna keep
because
one
they
as the
have an
alternate.
alternate
Because he can-
slot.
Oh,
vacant.
okay, so 1 additional member.
A full member?
1 full
Full member.
member from 5 to 6, is that right?
Correct.
I second it.
Motion made and second. Is there any additional discussion?
Does it make a difference whether we make it an alternate, have 2 alternates as opposed to full-time?
You currently have 2 alternates positions. You have 1 vacant and 1 filled.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And you have 5 members.
And I'll tell you, I have one comment, because I used to sit on that commission years ago, and I think Kathy Teller is obviously doing a terrific job and working very hard at it, creating a lot of interest. But my concern is if we expand it and then the commission does not have as robust a participation, then they're going to have a problem getting a quorum. They're going to have a problem in many other regards. I'm not against expanding them, and obviously if Kathy requests it, there's a need, but I have concerns in the future. Maybe my concerns are unfounded, and in fact having more people will add to more discussion and more involvement. So
All right, Josh.
What if we give them a third alternate instead?
You can do that as well.
That way it wouldn't affect their need for quorum.
so we give them 1 regular and 1 alternate, or
No.
just 1 alternate?
Just increase the number of alternates.
Additional full member.
And then,
3 alternates.
and if Kathy and we can always revisit this again if they feel that they're
Want to modify your motion? Change it to just add an additional?
No.
No. Okay.
no.
Why?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Kathy herself asked
For a full member.
a full member, and I have so much respect for her ability that if that's what she asks, I'm willing to give her whatever she wants.
But as I said, I'm not concerned with Kathy. I'm concerned with future boards.
But
Well, what we add, we can take
with
away.
the future
Right.
boards, you
can
can always
take
set the
away.
number as lower,
Right,
too.
we can take it away.
All right, then we don't have to spend a lot of time on it then. A lot of more time on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion's been made.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion of adding an additional member to the Economic Development Commission, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Now, do we also make a motion to
We have 2
appoint
people.
these?
Yep.
I'd like to make an,
Item 10.
Just got to put 1 in one and 1 in the other.
One has to be alternate, one has to be a full member.
I'd like to make a motion for Douglas Fisher for full-time position and David Loda for alternate position.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing
There
none?
isn't a date. I don't know which one came first. Okay, go ahead.
All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We do not have any more.
That is all that I have under my report, but however, under appointments, I'm sorry that I did not get this out to you, but the Health District, I'm actually an alternate, and our actual representative to the Health District has moved out of town. So in lieu, I would ask that the Board of Selectmen just appoint me as the alternate, the representative from Bolton at this time to the Health District, and we'll work to find that alternate position.
I'd like to make a motion to
So moved.
Joyce.
Second. Go home.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Joyce,
Motion
you're your help officer.
carries. You have, if there's no other,
And Carol's here, we could.
if there's no other business,
I just want to make one comment that about the whole business of the Pastrito property. No one knows about you that real estate has what they call dual agency.
Right.
Representing both parties. I'm, for all intents and purposes, representing you, even though we don't have anything in writing, but the only person that doesn't know, well, the person that doesn't know about you is the developer. I
Oh.
just said that, you know, there's interest in the property on the whole parcel, so everybody else is just, you know, kind of entities as far as.
All right. Thank you, appreciate that.
Into executive session.
Yep, motion to go into executive session, include Joyce.
So move, second.
All in favor? Aye.
Tired.
Second in this whole